The ocean doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what you benched in high school, what your recruiter told you, or what you whispered to yourself in the dark when you made this decision. The water is 58 degrees. The wind is coming off the water at 12 miles per hour, and at 0430, when the instructors walk you down to the shoreline for the first time, the only thing the Pacific offers you is this, a choice. You can enter, or you can go home. Most people go home. This is the story of what happens to the ones who don't. The candidate, you arrive carrying a sea bag and a version of yourself that won't survive the next 6 months. That version, the one who trained for this, who ran 5 a.m. miles in a hometown that didn't understand why, that version is about to be systematically taken apart. Not by cruelty, by design. Before BUD/S even begins, you go through weeks of indoctrination. They call it indoc. You run in boots on soft sand. You carry logs the length of telephone poles with 7 men who are strangers. You enter the 58-degree surf until your hands stop working and your body forgets how to shiver. Cold, wet, sandy. That phrase will become the texture of your life. You came here believing that preparation was enough. It is not. The instructors are not trying to break your body. Your body, frankly, is the easiest part of this. What they are after is the voice inside you that negotiates. The voice that says, just get through today. The voice that calculates. They want to find out what happens to you when calculation fails, when there is no end in sight, and the pain is not metaphorical, and the tide comes in again regardless of whether you've rested. You learn something in those first weeks that no training program teaches. Suffering is not linear. It doesn't build to a peak and release. It layers. And somewhere inside the layering, you either find a floor, something beneath the pain that holds, or you don't. 223 men started with you. By the end of the first week, 31 have rung the bell. You're still here. You don't know why. That answer will take years to arrive, and when it does, it won't feel the way you expected. Hell Week. Sunday night. You've been awake since Thursday. Your hands are so swollen you can't fully close them. The skin on your inner thighs has been rubbed raw by wet BDUs for 3 days. You have a stress fracture in your left foot that you haven't reported, because reporting it means leaving. You haven't told anyone. You put one foot in front of the other. You tell yourself nothing. You have run out of things to tell yourself. Hell Week is not a test of fitness. Fitness is the entry fee. What's being tested now is what psychologists call psychological hardiness. The ability to continue functioning when the rational mind has presented you with a reasonable case for stopping. Because by Wednesday of Hell Week, the rational mind is correct. Stopping is the sane option. The body is failing. The mind is hallucinating at the edges. You see things that aren't there, hear conversations that didn't happen. The instructors know this. They've watched hundreds of men move through these hours. What they're watching for is not strength. They're watching for the man who's completely broken and still moving. You are that man. You don't feel like that man. You feel like a malfunctioning machine, but your legs keep moving and your hands keep gripping, and somewhere around 0300. On Friday, with the finish line close enough to smell, something in you goes quiet. Not peaceful. Quiet. The negotiating voice stops. You finish. They give you a steak breakfast. You eat it and fall asleep sitting upright with a fork in your hand. The medic checks your foot. The fracture is real. You will run on it for the next 4 months of training, and it will heal imperfectly. 20 years from now, you'll feel it in the cold. You don't know that yet. Right now, you sleep. The making of an operator: diving physics, combat swimming, land navigation, demolitions, JTAC procedures, medical trauma, parachute systems. You spend the next several months becoming a technical instrument. There is a quietness to this phase that people outside the community rarely discuss. After Hell Week, training becomes almost academic in its structure. You learn to clear a room. You learn to pack a wound. You learn to read a grid coordinate in total darkness with your hands shaking. You run 8 miles in boots before most people eat breakfast, and then you sit in a classroom and calculate explosive charges. You are being built into something precise. The building is not painless. Your shoulder separates during a dive evolution in phase 2. The corpsman pops it back into place on the beach. You return to the water within the hour. This is not heroism. This is the standard. You understand the standard now in a way that is cellular. It lives in your tissue, not your thoughts. BUD/S graduation. They pin the trident on your chest. It is heavier than you expect, not metaphorically. The actual physical weight of it, the eagle, the anchor, the flintlock pistol, the trident, presses into your blouse. 3 ounces of metal. You have spent the better part of 2 years earning the right to wear it. Your parents are in the bleachers. Your mother cries. Your father shakes your hand and doesn't say much. You stand straight. You don't feel what you expected to feel. You feel tired. You feel like the real work is beginning. You're right. First deployment, Afghanistan, or Iraq, or somewhere with no name that appears on no news broadcast. Your kit weighs 67 pounds. Plate carrier, ammunition, medical gear, communications, water. You move in it like it's a second skeleton. You have practiced this so many times that the weight has become part of your proprioception. You know exactly where your body ends and the gear begins. Your team leader is a senior chief with 11 deployments. He speaks quietly and is rarely wrong. You watch him the way you used to watch coaches, except that this man's decisions have a different category of consequence. Your first direct action mission is at 02:15 on a Tuesday. No one tells you what day it is beforehand. You find out afterward from the date on a report. You move. You do what you trained to do. You do not freeze. You do not think. Your body executes a sequence of actions that were drilled into muscle memory over 4 years of preparation. Afterward, in the debrief, your voice is steady. That night, alone in your bunk, you lie awake for a long time looking at the ceiling. You don't write about it. There is no language yet. The language comes later, and when it does, it is imprecise. You learn to live with the imprecision. Your girlfriend back home asks how it's going. You say fine. She says she misses you. You say you miss her too. Both of these things are true. Neither of them closes the distance between what you are experiencing and what she can understand. That gap widens with every deployment. You don't notice the widening the way you'd notice a door closing. It happens more like a tide going out. One day, you look up, and the shore is far away. The body starts keeping score L4 to L5 disc herniation. You've had it for 2 years before you acknowledge it. The pain travels down your left leg. Sciatic, burning, intermittent. You adjust your gait slightly, unconsciously, to compensate. The adjustment creates secondary strain in your right hip. A physical therapist will identify this chain of compensation 5 years from now. For now, you tape, you adapt, and you continue. Your right knee has a torn meniscus. Repaired once, degraded again. Your left shoulder, the same one from phase 2, has now had 2 additional labrum repairs. Your hearing in your right ear has measurable loss from years of unsuppressed fire. Tinnitus has become the baseline sound of silence. You are 28 years old. Structurally, you have the imaging of a man 20 years older. This is not remarkable within your community. You compare injuries the way other men compare career accomplishments. It is the lingua franca of the platoon. What is harder to discuss is the other category of damage. You sleep poorly. Not insomnia exactly. More like a persistent alertness that won't fully disengage. You wake at sounds that aren't threats. Your nervous system has been recalibrated by years of operating in environments where threat assessment had to be instantaneous and constant. That recalibration does not switch off at home. Your wife, you married at 24, she is patient and intelligent and has tried harder than you deserve. Notices that you scan rooms, that you sit with your back to walls, that you are present in body and somewhere else entirely. She doesn't say this as an accusation, she says it quietly. One night, as an observation, you don't have an answer. Leading men, you are now responsible for other men's lives in a way that is categorically different from being responsible for your own. As a new chief, you carry the platoon. Not just in combat, in the space between. You watch your guys for signs. The one who's drinking more than he should. The one whose marriage just ended and who went quiet in a specific way. The one who's getting reckless in training, pushing parameters, looking for an edge he doesn't need to be looking for. You know what that edge means. You've stood near it yourself. You lose a man. Not to enemy action, to himself. 3 months after returning from a deployment. His name doesn't leave this script. His name belongs to his family, and to the men who served with him. What you carry from that is not guilt, exactly, though guilt visits. What you carry is a recalibration of what you missed, what you didn't see, what the training prepares you for and what it absolutely does not. You think about the conversation you almost had with him, the one you postponed because the operational tempo was high and there would be time later. There was not time later. You carry this. You do not put it down. The marriage ends. She doesn't leave in anger. That, somehow, is worse. She leaves with a clarity that she's arrived at over several years. The paperwork is organized. The lawyer is already retained. She sits across from you and tells you that she has been alone inside this marriage for longer than she hasn't, and that she has decided to stop. You do not argue, because you know she is not wrong. You have been present for a cumulative total of perhaps 2 years of your marriage in a meaningful sense. The rest has been deployment, pre-deployment workup, post-deployment reintegration, which is its own kind of absence, where the body is home and the mind is still 4,000 miles away. You see your children on alternating weekends. Your daughter is 7. Your son is 4. They are at the age where you are still the largest figure in their world, and you are aware, in the kind of clarity that arrives too late, that this window is closing. You move into base housing alone. You train the next morning at 05:30, because that is what you know how to do. Because motion is the only language left. Senior operator, you are now the one they watch. You have been moved into training command. Part of you resisted it. Resistance was noted and overridden by men above you who have been watching your arc longer than you have. This is where you are needed, not downrange. Here, you teach the next generation of operators. You teach them the technical material with precision. You also teach them, without naming it as a lesson, how to carry what this work costs. Not by talking about it directly. That is not the culture. And you're not sure the culture is entirely wrong, but in the way you conduct yourself, in the space you hold for the conversations that happen after class, in the parking lot at 2100, when a young operator catches up to you and doesn't say anything for a while. You let him not say anything. You've been that man. Your body is a daily inventory of costs. Both shoulders compromised, the spine managed with injections every 4 months. Hearing aids recommended, not yet worn. Sleep still imperfect, but functional. Controlled. You have learned to work with the system your life has made of you. You have not remarried. You are not opposed to it. Time is the problem, or maybe it's something else, and time is the name you give it, the last deployment. You don't know it's the last one until afterward. It is not significantly different from the others in operational terms. What's different is internal, a specific awareness of finitude that wasn't there before. You notice things at the granular level, the smell of a specific terrain, the weight distribution of your kit at the end of a long patrol, the way the platoon moves together like a single organism built from 1,000 hours of practice. You are 38 years old. You are the oldest man in the element by 6 years. You do your job. You come home. You sit in the parking lot of the base for 20 minutes before going inside. This is not something you plan, it's just what happens. Retirement. They call it a retirement ceremony. That word, retirement, belongs to a different kind of life. You stand in the hall in your dress uniform. The awards on your chest are a compressed history of places and operations with redacted names. The people in the room are the people who remain. The men you served with. The ones who made it. Your children who are now teenagers and watch you from the middle of the room with eyes that contain something you can't fully name. Your son stands very straight. A senior officer says words about your service. They are accurate words. They are also, in some way, you can't explain to anyone in the room, incomplete. They remove the trident from your chest. You drive home. You sit in a house that is fully yours, quiet, and you do not know what to do with your hands. The identity you have worn for 20 years is not a jacket you can hang on a door. It is not separate from you. It is structural. It has been load-bearing, and now the structure it was part of is gone, and you are standing in its absence, trying to understand what holds. Return to Coronado. You go back to the beach. Not for ceremony. Not for symbolism. You go because it's quiet before 0500, and the cold air clarifies things. You stand at the edge where the water comes in, the same latitude where you stood at 22 years old, soaked and shaking and making a choice. The Pacific doesn't remember you. It doesn't register what you spent here. It comes and goes without acknowledgement, the same as it did when you had nothing and the same as it does now. You think about the men you led, the man you lost, the marriage that ended without an argument, your daughter calling you last Tuesday just to talk. That happened more than any combat citation will ever mean to you. Your spine, your shoulder, the ringing in your right ear that started in Helmand and never stopped. The version of yourself that arrived here with a sea bag and certainty. He's gone. What stands in his place is harder to name. The sun begins to separate from the water. The light is gray before it is gold. Out in the bay, nothing moves. You spent 20 years becoming something specific, and the thing you became is not what they put in the brochure. It is not a poster. It is not a quote you can put on a wall. It is a man standing on a cold beach at 52 degrees, wearing civilian clothes, listening to a sound in his own head that hasn't stopped since the war, watching the same ocean that took everything he offered it, and gave nothing back but the right to say he stood in it. That is the trident, not the medal. This